I can't tell you how much I sympathise with the way everybody has had to endure this unbelievably testing and challenging time.
The world stopped spinning. For exactly 7 minutes and 42 seconds, every television, every radio, every phone screen across the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth broadcast the same terrifying image. King Charles III, sitting behind a heavy oak desk in Buckingham Palace, looked not into the camera, but into the void. He didn't look like a monarch. He looked like a man attending his own funeral. And in a way, he was, because the words he spoke next didn't just signal the end of his reign, they signaled the death of the British monarchy itself. Buckingham Palace is burning, and this time, there is no PR team left to put out the fire. The golden gates have been bolted shut. The senior staff are whispering in darkened corridors, packing up decades of royal archives, terrified of what tomorrow brings. King Charles has just made a devastating announcement, an admission of failure so absolute, so historically catastrophic, that it has plunged the nation into immediate, undeniable chaos. This is not a rumor. This is not a conspiracy theory spun from the depths of the internet. This is a breaking, shattering reality. The British monarchy, an institution that has survived wars, plagues, executions, and abdications for over 1,000 years, is collapsing in real time, and the man wearing the crown just pulled the trigger himself. For months, the public has been lied to. We were told the king was fine. We were told the Princess of Wales was fine. We were fed a steady diet of half-truths, fake photographs, and desperate distractions. But behind the gilded doors, the House of Windsor has been rotting from the inside out. The pressure of a king battling cancer, a future queen vanishing without a trace, a rogue prince in America, and a treasury of hidden billions finally reached a breaking point. The dam has burst, and in a broadcast that was never supposed to happen, Charles surrendered. He didn't just announce a step back, he didn't just announce a regency, he announced the beginning of the end. If you think you understand the magnitude of this royal crisis, think again, because what Charles just revealed goes far beyond health scares and family feuds. It is a total systemic collapse of an empire, and the fallout is going to change the face of the world forever. Let's dissect the sheer, unadulterated panic of Charles's broadcast. It wasn't the polished, rehearsed comfort of a monarch addressing his people. It was a desperate, exhausted man waving a white flag. The king, looking visibly weakened, his voice trembling with a mixture of physical pain and emotional agony, addressed the nation. He spoke of the heavy burden of the crown. He spoke of his failing health, acknowledging for the first time that his battle with cancer is not a fight he is guaranteed to win. He looked into the camera and said the words that will be etched into the history books. The institution must evolve, or it must end. End. That was the word that sent shockwaves through the British establishment. He didn't say adapt. He didn't say modernize. He said the institution of the monarchy is facing its terminal chapter. Charles announced an immediate, drastic restructuring of the crown. He declared that the vast majority of the royal family will be stripped of their remaining royal patronages and funding. He effectively fired the extended Windsor family, cutting them off from the public teat in a desperate bid to appease a furious public that is demanding to know where their tax dollars are going. But that was just the appetizer. The main course, the truly devastating part of the announcement, was his admission of failure regarding the succession. Charles did not confidently declare that Prince William was ready to step up. He did not paint a picture of a seamless transition to the next generation. Instead, with a heavy sigh, he announced the immediate activation of a transitional royal council. What does that mean? It means the king is no longer in full control. It means the British government, the Prime Minister, and Parliament are now stepping in to manage the affairs of the crown. Charles is stepping back, not just for a few weeks of rest, but indefinitely. He is effectively a monarch in name only, a figurehead trapped in a palace while the politicians and bureaucrats dismantle his kingdom. He looked broken. He sounded defeated, and the public felt it. The facade of invincibility, the myth of the all-powerful sovereign, shattered into a million pieces on live television. This didn't happen overnight. The collapse of the British monarchy is the result of a perfect storm of scandal, sickness, and sheer unadulterated hubris. To understand why Charles was forced to make this devastating announcement today, you have to look at the chain of catastrophic events that led to this moment. First, the health crisis. When King Charles was diagnosed with cancer, the palace tried to control the narrative. They released tiny scraps of information, claiming it was a minor issue, but the treatments took a massive toll. Charles was exhausted, unable to perform his daily duties, and increasingly reliant on a shrinking pool of working royals. The king was incapacitated, but the palace refused to admit the severity of the situation. Then came the disappearance of Kate Middleton. The Princess of Wales, the glittering jewel in the royal crown, vanished from public view. What started as a routine surgery morphed into a months-long blackout that sparked global panic. When the palace tried to appease the public with a heavily edited, digitally manipulated Mother's Day photograph, it detonated whatever shred of credibility they had left. The public realized they were being lied to. The future queen was sick, hidden away, and the palace was faking reality to cover it up. That's sign. The psychological toll on the public was immense. How could they trust a monarchy that faked a photograph of its most popular member? Then came the financial leaks. Whispers of King Charles's secret will, his hidden billions in offshore accounts, and his ruthless distribution of wealth turned public sympathy into public fury. The British people, struggling with a cost-of-living crisis, were furious to learn that their king was hoarding billions tax-free while preaching about charity and duty. And looming over all of this was the ghost of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex, exiled in California, had been warning the world for years that the palace was a toxic, abusive institution. They spoke of a media machine that chewed people up and spat them out. They spoke of mental health crises, racism, and a family that cared more about its public image than its own flesh and blood. At the time, the British public dismissed them. They called Harry a traitor. They called Meghan a manipulator. But as the Kate Middleton crisis unfolded, and as Charles's secret finances were exposed, the public began to realize the horrifying truth. Harry and Meghan were right all along. The institution is toxic, the institution is collapsing, and Charles's announcement is the final, irrefutable proof. Inside the palace walls, the reaction to Charles's broadcast is nothing short of a civil war. The family is fractured, turning on each other in a desperate bid for survival. Prince William is reportedly livid. The Prince of Wales, who has spent his entire life preparing to be king, is watching his birthright crumble before his eyes. William is said to be absolutely furious at his father's weakness. He believes Charles has capitulated to public pressure, that he has given up, and in doing so, he has destroyed the monarchy that William was born to rule. William is caught in an impossible vice. His wife Kate is battling a severe health crisis behind closed doors. His father has effectively surrendered, and now the burden of holding the entire institution together has fallen squarely on his shoulders. But William doesn't have the power. Charles is still the king, and by stepping back and inviting a transitional council, Charles has stripped William of his authority. William cannot make decisions. He cannot enact changes. He is a passenger in a car that is driving straight off a cliff. The tension between father and son is reportedly at an all-time high. William feels betrayed. He feels abandoned, and he is terrified that by the time the crown is passed to him, there will be nothing left to rule. And then there is Queen Camilla. The woman who fought for decades to sit on the throne is now watching her empire evaporate. When Charles stepped back, Camilla lost her shield. She is acutely aware that she has never been popular with the public. She knows that the moment Charles loses power, she loses her protection. Camilla is scrambling. She is desperately trying to secure her financial future, terrified that the new transitional council will strip her of the private estates and the massive cash payouts Charles secretly guaranteed her in his will. She is isolated, paranoid, and watching her back. The courtiers who once kissed her ring are now distancing themselves, preparing for a post-Charles world. And Princess Anne? The Princess Royal, who recently dropped her own bombshell on the king, is reportedly shaking her head in grim vindication. Anne warned Charles this would happen. She told him his financial dealings were reckless, his reliance on Camilla was dangerous, and his failure to manage the younger generation was catastrophic. Now she is watching the prophecy come true, but Anne is not swooping in to save the day. She is reportedly considering stepping back herself, refusing to be dragged down with a sinking ship. The House of Windsor is not just in crisis, it is in a state of terminal, irreversible collapse. We are watching the single most dramatic event in modern British history unfold in real time. The monarchy is collapsing, a king has surrendered, and the world is watching in shock. But before we expose the global fallout of Charles's announcement, we need you in this with us. This is the end of an era, and the world needs to know the truth. If you believe King Charles made the right decision by stepping back and admitting the monarchy is failing, hit the subscribe button and drop a 1 in the comments right now. But if you think Charles is a coward who destroyed the monarchy to protect his own secrets, hit subscribe and drop a 2. We need to know where you stand. because the British establishment is watching the public reaction to decide their next move. Hit that bell icon so you don't miss the next massive update. We are just getting to the most terrifying part of this collapse. Now back to the chaos. The fallout from Charles's announcement isn't just a family drama, it is a full-blown constitutional crisis. The British government is in absolute chaos. Imagine the scene inside 10 Downing Street. The Prime Minister, already dealing with a fractious parliament and a struggling economy, was given mere minutes of warning before Charles went on live television. The PM was completely blindsided. The British Constitution is largely unwritten, relying heavily on tradition, precedent, and the silent understanding that the monarch will always be there. Now, the monarch has stepped back. The transitional royal council that Charles announced is a constitutional nightmare. It means politicians, lawyers, and civil servants now have to figure out how to run the state without a functioning head of state. Parliament is in an uproar. The debates are ferocious. On one side, you have the monarchists screaming that Charles has committed treason against the crown, that he has betrayed his coronation oath. On the other side, you have the Republicans, who are cheering, viewing this as the ultimate victory. They see the Transitional Council as the perfect stepping stone to abolishing the monarchy entirely and declaring a British Republic. The Prime Minister is caught in the middle. They have to manage the day-to-day affairs of the state, sign legislation, and represent the nation on the global stage, all while the head of state is effectively incapacitated and the institution is crumbling. The political instability is sending shockwaves through the financial markets. The pound is fluctuating. International investors hate uncertainty, and right now, there is no institution in the world more uncertain than the British Crown. The Commonwealth is also reeling. King Charles is the head of state for over a dozen countries, from Canada to Australia to various Caribbean nations. His announcement has given immediate, massive momentum to the Republican movements in all of these countries. Why should Australia keep the British king on their currency if the king himself has admitted the institution is collapsing? Within hours of Charles's broadcast, leaders in Australia and Canada were publicly calling for referendums to sever ties with the crown. The empire isn't just fading, it is being actively dismantled. The announcement has triggered a domino effect that will permanently alter the geopolitical landscape of the world. The asset liquidation. Who gets the billions? If the monarchy is collapsing, what happens to the money? This is the question that has the British public absolutely furious, because as Charles announced his surrender, the first thing the public thought of was the billions of dollars in private wealth the royal family has hoarded for generations. With the activation of the Transitional Council, the financial veil has been lifted. The British government is now demanding a full, transparent accounting of the royal family's private wealth. We are talking about the Duchy of Lancaster, the Duchy of Cornwall, Balmoral, Sandringham, and the billions in offshore accounts. The public is demanding that if the monarchy is collapsing, those assets should be seized and returned to the state. They are arguing that the royal family only accumulated that wealth because of their position, and if they are no longer fulfilling the duties of the crown, they should not be allowed to keep the fortune. This is Charles's ultimate nightmare. He spent years secretly drafting wills and setting up offshore trusts to protect his billions from the public and from his own family. Now all of those carefully constructed legal walls are crumbling. The Transitional Council has the power to launch forensic audits into every penny the royal family holds. If the government decides to seize the assets, Charles, Camilla, William, and the rest of the Windsors could be left with nothing but their personal jewelry. The idea of the royal family becoming ordinary tax-paying citizens is no longer a fringe Republican fantasy. It is becoming a terrifying reality. And what about the crown jewels, the priceless artifacts held in the Tower of London? While they technically belong to the state, their cultural and financial value is immense. The debate over what to do with them will rage for years. But one thing is certain, the royal family's unchecked access to billions of dollars is coming to an abrupt, brutal end. The Sussex vindication, Harry and Meghan's final word. And what about the Duke and Duchess of Sussex? Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, sitting thousands of miles away in their Montecito mansion, are watching the collapse of the monarchy with a mixture of vindication and sorrow. For years, they were vilified. They were called traitors, liars, and grifters for daring to speak out against the institution. Harry wrote a memoir laying bare the toxic dynamics, the financial abuse, and the emotional cruelty of the royal family. He spoke of a family that cared more about the tabloids than their own mental health. He warned that history was repeating itself, that the same machine that killed his mother was now coming for his wife. the British public called him bitter, they called him entitled. But today, as they watch King Charles surrender the crown on national television, they are realizing that Harry was telling the truth all along. Harry doesn't even need to make a statement. His silence is deafening. His absence from the crumbling institution speaks volumes. He saw the writing on the wall. He knew the pressure was unsustainable. He knew the secrets were too heavy. He escaped the sinking ship before it hit the iceberg, and now he is watching from the safety of the shore. But there is a darker side to this for Harry. He is watching his father battle a severe illness, knowing that the stress of this collapse is likely shortening his life. He is watching his brother, William, crumble under the pressure of a dying monarchy. The family rift, once a source of anger and defiance, must now feel like a profound, tragic loss. The monarchy that Harry walked away from is dying, and the world is finally admitting that he was right to leave. The collapse of the British monarchy is not just a political or financial event, it is a profound psychological trauma for the United Kingdom. For over 1,000 years, the crown has been the one constant in a rapidly changing world. It is woven into the fabric of British identity. The national anthem, the currency, the stamps, the legal system, the very names of the ships in the Royal Navy, all of it is tied to the monarch. Charles's announcement has ripped the heart out of the nation. The British public is waking up to a reality where the magic is gone. The fairy tale is dead. There is a profound sense of mourning across the country. Older generations who grew up revering Queen Elizabeth II and the unbreakable strength of the crown feel utterly lost. They feel betrayed by Charles, who they believe threw away his mother's legacy. They are grieving the loss of an institution that gave them a sense of national pride and global superiority. Younger generations, while more skeptical of the monarchy, are also feeling the shock. The royal family has been a global brand, a source of soft power and cultural export. The idea of a British Republic feels strange, unfamiliar, and slightly cold. The streets of London are quiet. The tourist attractions that depend on the royal family are bracing for an uncertain future. The pageantry, the guards, the palaces, all of it feels hollow now. The gilded cage is empty. The palace is desperately trying to manage the fallout, but there is no managing this. Charles's words were final. The institution is evolving, or it is ending, and the public knows that ending is exactly what is happening. So what happens next? How does a nation dismantle a 1,000-year-old monarchy? The Transitional Royal Council will now begin the agonizing process of unwinding the crown. This will take years, possibly decades, but the first steps are already being taken. We will likely see a rapid push for a new constitution. The British government will have to formalize the role of the head of state, potentially transitioning to an elected president or a purely parliamentary republic. The legal implications are staggering. Every law, every oath, every contract that references the crown will have to be rewritten. The royal family will be forced to vacate Buckingham Palace and Windsor Castle. These massive, expensive landmarks will likely be turned over to the state, becoming fully public museums. The royals will be given a stipend, a fraction of their former wealth, and told to live like ordinary citizens. PR. Prince William will have to face the reality that he may never be king. His entire life, his entire identity, has been built around the assumption that he would wear the crown. Now he is facing a future where he is simply a wealthy, titled gentleman with no political power and no divine right. The psychological devastation of that reality is immense. The Commonwealth will dissolve. The ties that bind Canada, Australia, and New Zealand to the British crown will be formally severed. The British Empire, which has been slowly fading for a century, will take its final breath. The British monarchy is collapsing. King Charles III, a man who waited 70 years to wear the crown, has effectively announced its death. The secrets, the lies, the sickness, and the financial scandals have finally caught up with the House of Windsor. The fairy tale is over. The magic is gone. What remains is a brutal political reality where an ancient institution is dismantled in real time, broadcast to a world that is watching in shock and awe. Charles's devastating announcement is not just the end of his reign, it is the end of an era. The 1,000-year reign of the British monarchs is drawing to a close, and the world will never be the same. The walls have closed in, the secrets are out, and the crown has finally fallen. What do you think? Is this the end of the British monarchy, or can the institution be saved? Do you support the transition to a republic, or do you believe the crown must be preserved at all costs? Comment below with your thoughts. If you believe the royal family's time is up, hit that subscribe button right now. We are documenting the fall of an empire, and you need to be here for every second of it. Share this video with everyone you know. The world needs to wake up to the reality of what is happening in Britain. The royal chaos is far from over, and the next chapter will be even more explosive. Stay vigilant, stay informed. The crown has fallen, but the truth is just beginning. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and brace yourself. The final act of the royal drama is about to begin.